are really what epitomizes an AG-ceptional woman. And we are pretty excited to surprise you today with this honor. So, leadership, true leadership, inspires others and lifts other people up. And I think Joan does that in an exceptional way. And it was a real honor to nominate Joan as AgCeptional Woman because she really shows us what a woman in ag can be.
You know, we talk about in leadership you need to show up, and Joan is one of those people that always shows up and is always willing to help out and be helpful for everybody.
To see her leadership in her community still, to see her leadership in all facets of her life is really inspiring, because I think she truly does care about helping consumers understand agriculture, about doing what's best for agriculture, what's best for beef producers, what's best for crop producers, what's best for American agriculture as a whole, and how that fits into everyone's everyday life.
Joan is passionate on so many different levels. She is passionate about her cattle, obviously, and her family and her faith, which are truly inspiring. But then she's also, passionate about educating consumers and advocating for our industry and agriculture as a whole. And she takes that to so many different levels through her volunteerism and her true willingness to be a servant leader.
Her strength as a leader for the beef industry, but also for women in agriculture, is something that's pretty hard to find, and it kind of is the perfection, the trifecta in Joan.
Joan has always been my AgCeptional Woman of the Year, every year. She's always been most interested in the health of cattle, and that has been a big benefit. And there's landscaping all over that really adds to the looks of the place and makes it more fun to work.
I grew up in Grand Island and loved animals like my entire life. I was always getting dogs or cats or something, and I really wanted a horse. Bought a horse with detasseling money, kept it at my uncle's acreage. We were not on a farm. I had extended family that ranched, and that was really my connection, other than detasseling, to agriculture. Through my love for animals, I decided to become a veterinary technician. Went to college at Curtis to get that degree, and I was working in Fremont for a veterinarian when I met Steve at a wedding dance in Snyder. And Steve sat across from me that night and learned that I really liked horses, and so he started telling me this story about a horse he had, and maybe I'd come out and ride it sometime. Well, okay, so that's pretty much we rode off into the sunset. We started farming in 1981, so almost exactly 40 years ago, I became a woman in agriculture.
It was kind of a new thing to Joan because she wasn't raised on a farm, but she was okay to go along with it. And we were mostly raising hogs and a few cattle and some farm ground. And we went into the mid-'80s.
I had no connection. I was here, but not connected. Then we went through the farm crisis, and we also started our family.
And went on to have 3 girls and 2 boys, approximately 2 years apart, 2 to 3 years apart, and which we thought was one of the best things we ever did. And the kids were involved in the farming operations.
And the farm crisis was really tough. Steve had such a burning desire to make it work. He was coming up with all these cash flow plans. We started feeding pigs because you could buy pigs for a lot less money than cattle. And we had pigs in about every empty barn in a 20-mile radius. And I didn't mind pigs because they're little. They were kind of fun to be around, but it was not Steve. He was a cattleman.
We were actually broke in 1985, and she just said, let's just start over and keep it going. And so that probably made the difference between us being here now or not. We did start over in 1986, basically from zero, and started feeding more cattle and kept feeding hogs, and then gradually fed more of our own cattle
I felt like we were just kind of in mud for a little while, and then we started getting out of the mud and things started rolling. The hog part disappeared and the cattle part started to grow. Steve's desire was to always own the cattle, and at some point over the last 30, 40 years, it was able to happen.
This is kind of like a dream of mine, but since Joan's become more involved in agriculture, it has become her challenge as well, and she's every bit as interested as I am.
I just really like cattle. There's just something about them. You just either have it or you don't, I guess.
She will sing to the cattle. She'll be listening to Christian music and praise God through her work in walking through and making sure that these cattle are healthy, because she sees them also as a gift and something to be treated well. She will change the words sometimes to sing them to the cattle. So just a beautiful way to bring joy and her faith into what she's doing.
I would say a theme overall growing up is that my mom always was willing to volunteer for sort of anything that there was a need for. So when I was a really little kid, it was really through the church where she actively taught religious education. For many, many years, she was a director of religious formation for our church for a long time. As we were growing up and getting into 4-H age, there wasn't a 4-H club in our town, and so my mom then organized a club and became the 4-H leader. We all really saw modeled the value of service and serving other people, and the idea that if you've been blessed with a lot of things in your life, then you have that sort of responsibility to share those gifts with other people. And that's something that my mom directly taught us, but also modeled really well for us throughout our childhood, giving back to other people, and that's kind of what she continues to do.
Steve and I are also EMTs and volunteer for our community. And since I've been here 40 years, what I really love about that is that I know everybody. And the older folks, especially when we pick them up for a call, they're pretty scared, but just being there for them as another person who cares about them. They're not just a ride to the hospital, they're an actual person that I know. When we had a piece of ground that went up for sale for an estate sale, we bought one piece that's attached to this, but the other piece is not, and we didn't have to have it, and we knew it was going to bring a lot of money, and we didn't know if we could really justify it, and we didn't buy it, and I felt like a part of me had left. Like we'd been taking care of that ground for 30 some years, and it wasn't our ground to take care of anymore. And so it was, that's when I really realized I was really connected, and I understood more what it was like for people who lost their farms. Like the devastation of losing something you feel so passionate for, but you're connected to it. You've been nurturing it. You've been caring for it. So that depth of that understanding hit home for me for that. Well, that grew into being a voice for my farm. That's about the time when the movies, the books came out about how big ag was not so great, and it was like, well, that's not what we do here. And Common Ground started.
Common Ground Nebraska is a program designed to connect consumers with the farmers that are growing and producing their food. We utilize a mom-to-mom approach because we know that women are still the primary purchasers of food for their families in many instances. Joan does the research and understanding a consumer's values, understanding where a consumer is coming from, and then having kind of an emotional connection through empathy, through caring, through compassion, and then she's able to share our story in agriculture and then back it up with the facts.
Joan has a way of talking about what they do and why they do things on their farm that consumers can understand. And so if there are media requests to talk about a big industry issue like beef sustainability or environmental issues, or even during COVID-19 pandemic when there were issues with the packing plants shutting down and some of the issues that we had along there, we could call Joan, and she would talk to any media person in a way that we trusted was going to shine a positive light on our industry.
I was working with the Checkoff, which was doing a lot of activities to tell the beef story. And I really got connected and passionate about sharing the story of how food goes from the farm to the fork, especially this side of it, the farm side, beef production, how cattle graze and are able to utilize so much marginal land, and then we can bring it here where we grow corn really well and provide this nutrient-dense, tasty, tender beef product that people really enjoy. It makes you proud of what you're doing too, because you are part of a story that's really beautiful. And we're connected to each other. It's not just me and my farm. It's me and a lot of other producers too. But it's also me being part of another story that's bigger than my farm.
I think that women involved in agriculture should look to Joan as a role model and an inspiration, because she truly shows that you can do a lot of things. And you can be a mother, you can be a wife, you can be a cattle feeder, you can be an advocate. There's so many hats that she's able to wear, and she does it with not only professionalism, but with grace.
I could reach out to her for advice, or I could just look to what she was doing and try to emulate that, both in my professional and personal life.
It's the joys and the sorrows of life. And I think that's what we're about when we serve in any capacity, whether it's in our local community or at the national level. We're real people. And when we connect with our consumers out there, the news media, we're not just a talking point for the day or a concern. We're real people that have real families, and we really care about what we're doing on our farms and ranches to make the world a better place, whether it's the way we take care of our land or the way we feed people. Gosh, how different we are now in the way we farm than when I met Steve. And from the pictures I have of his grandparents on this farm, they used to just put a big stack of hay next to the edge of the pen, and the cattle ate through the fence to eat it. And now we accurately weigh it. We have a software that puts it in the cloud, and we can get the information, the exact pounds of every ingredient, the exact pounds that went to each pen. The science now that we have, and the way that we can track everything, measure everything, and then we can improve it because we've tracked it and measured it. Now, what can we do to improve? That's exciting. And the technology piece of agriculture is only getting better. The impact we can have on the climate for better with carbon, we're on the tip of that.
Looking ahead, labor problems is one of the things we face, and what to do. It isn't just us. It goes on up the line with repairs for machinery and parts for machinery, and the packing plants being able to run at full capacity. And ever since the COVID problem started a couple of years ago, it's a problem that's disrupting everything, and it's making everything more uncertain. All inputs are higher priced, and we don't know where that's going to stop, as well as availability. And the costs of farming way higher than it was a year ago, and so it's just much more uncertainty.
We have a lot of struggles in agriculture, and we know that, and it can be hard. Weather, markets, in the last couple of years in the cattle industry, it's just like hit. But we focus on the positive, we be hopeful, and try to change whatever we can. We don't just want to survive, we want to thrive. And I think that's a focus of when we produce food too. We want families to thrive. We on our farms, we need to thrive as well. Sometimes we just have to think about the things we can be excited about and let that lift us through those days where it's like, do I want to keep doing this? Well, yeah, I'm pretty connected now. I want to keep doing it.
Joan, I want to congratulate you on the 2021 AgCeptional Woman of the Year. You truly are a star in agriculture.
I just want to say thank you for being a role model for me, for my daughter, and my colleagues.
We love you, Grandma! We love you.
She makes it through good times, she makes it through tough. She makes sure that there's more than enough. She stands tall when push comes to shove. She works, she gives, she laughs, she loves. She credit where credit is due. true. She makes it